Okay, this is Steve Jewin from MMAmania.com, Glove Up or Shut Up, WrestlingObserver.com. You know all of that stuff. Hey, I picked a hell of a weekend to get sick, right? 2 UFC cards, a Bellator card, and a Battlegrounds MMA pay-per-view, but it's Sunday night. I'm feeling better. Let's run down these results really quick if you missed all of this action. Starting with the UFC show that was aired only on UFC Fight Pass from Stockholm. We had 7 prelim fights, 4 main card fights. At featherweight, Zubera Tukagov defeated Ernest Chavez by TKO 4 minutes 21 seconds into the first round, so an exciting way to start off the action. And it was followed by Marabek Taizamov defeating Marcin Bandel, also TKO, and only a second later, 4:22. What a coincidence, right? But that was a lightweight fight. Then there were a whole lot of decisions, and if you didn't watch it, you're probably not too sad about it because it just went on and on and on. Although the Dennis Siver Charles Rosa fight was pretty darn good. In fact, it got the fight of the night bonus, but let's run it down. At middleweight, Christoph Jotko defeated Tor Trong, 30-27 times 2 and a 30-26. Welterweight, Katal Pendred defeated Gazan Muladov. Split decision. He got 2 29-28 and a 28-29. The aforementioned featherweight bout between Dennis Siver and Charles Rosa, 30-27 across the board for Dennis Siver. And Nico Masoke defeated Alexander Yakovlev, 30-27 across the board. And the final prelim fight on Fight Pass was Magnus Seidenblad defeating Scott Ashcombe, 29-28 across the board. The main card delivered. And the opening bout was the performance of the night, in fact. Mike Wilkinson defeating Nicholas Backstrom with a knockout 1 minute and 19 seconds into the first round. And it was a spate of first round finishes here because John Blachowicz did the same thing to Ilir Latifi, 158 into the first round. He got the TKO with body kick and punches. So 2 impressive performances. And a third, Max Blessed Holloway defeated Akira Korosani via knockout, 3:11 into the first round, really vaulting himself into the upper ranks of the featherweight division with that win. He's very good for being as young as he is. Then in the main event, it went the full distance. Rick the Horror Story knocking off the ranked Gunnar Nelson and getting back into the rankings himself with a split decision, though, and this one is really odd. The first judge gave it 48-47 to Nelson, but the next 2 judges gave it 49-46 and 50-44 to Story. Now, if you're going to give any round of that fight a 10-8, you would definitely give a 10-8 to Story in the 4th round, but even so, how do you have one judge thinking that Gunnar Nelson won 3 rounds out of 5, and then the other judge thinks it was so decisive that he not only gave all 5 rounds to Story, he gave one of them a 10-8. I'm not saying either one is exactly the truth here. I think 49-46 is probably the best score out of all 3 of the judges' scores. But there you go. That was the UFC event in Stockholm. Then we had the UFC in Halifax. Rory McDonald and Tarek Safadine in the main event. Some of you may have had trouble seeing this show because a record-setting game took place on Fox Sports, the longest game in Major League Baseball playoff history, which forced them to first move it to Fox Sports 2 and then to move it to FX. So this got bounced around quite a lot, and I imagine some people's DVRs just didn't keep up with all the switches. So if you got a Fight Pass subscription, hope they upload the whole show there and you can see what you missed. But speaking of which, the 2 Fight Pass that opened the card were actually 2 of the best fights. Pedro Munoz defeating Jared Sanders with a guillotine choke just 39 seconds in. That was lightning quick. And then Albert Tumanov decided he wanted to take a shot at the performance bonus himself with 2 of the nastiest head kicks you'll ever see in a fight, knocking out Matt Dwyer in a minute 3. How he survived the first one was a miracle, but he had his head down like he was going for a takedown on the second one, and he got cocked cold. He was done. So Tumanov didn't get the bonus, though. The fight of the night went to Patrick Holohan and Chris Kalades, which we'll get to in a second, and the performance of the night was Rory McDonald and Olivier Aubin-Mercier. who you may remember from Tough Nations. But anyway, at flyweight, Chris Kalides, who took the fight on short notice, I believe 5 days, defeated Patrick Holohan 29-28 across the board, and it was an impressive performance. You got to give it up to him. And next after that, lightweight, Paul Felder defeated Jason Sago, split decision, which I guess I don't find too shocking. 28-29, 29-28, 29-28. So it was, I don't know. Felder did okay. I don't think it was anything to write home about, that you would have to go out of your way to see it again. But Aubin Mercier did look really good in his fight with Jake Lindsay. He got the inverted triangle and an Americana all at 3:22 of the second round. So whatever he tapped out to, that was a tap. It was over. Darren Cruikshank defeated Anthony Njokuani 30-27 across the board. Then the main card, wherever you saw it, Fox Sports 1, probably not. FX, probably. Mitch Gagnon defeated Roman Salazar with a rear naked choke. Then we had a whole slate of decisions that dragged the card down for a while. Nordine Talib, also of Tough Nations fame, defeated Li Jingliang. It was a split decision, though. 29-28, 30-27, 28-29. Again, these judges, okay, one thought all 3 rounds went to Nordine. Sure, fine, whatever. But then another judge thought 2 out of 3 went to Jingliang, and another thought 2 out of the 3 went to Talib. They're not even watching the same fight at that point. Elias Teodoro defeated Bruno Santos, who you may remember from the Chris Camozzi fight at UFC 175. This was unanimous across the board, 29-28. And Chad Laprise, also of Tough Nations fame, defeated Yostenis Cedeno, 30-27 across the board. Rafael Sunsao keeps his spot in the bantamweight rankings by knocking off Brian Caraway very decisively, 30-27 from every judge. And speaking of decisive, Rory McDonald was already well ahead on Turk Safadine, but he finished it in the 3rd round with a TKO at 1:28. So you're looking at your next contender after Lawler Hendricks. McDonald's got to be right up there to get that shot. That's the 2 UFC cards for the weekend. But as noted, it was a very busy weekend. I've already talked about Bellator. You've seen the video, you know the results from that, or you read my report at MMAmania.com. Well, there was also a Battlegrounds MMA event that took place at the exact same time as the Bellator card on Friday night. So, what was I to do? I'm covering one for MMA Mania. I clearly can't cover both. You know, there's only so many things you can do in one night. But there was, like I said, another event, which you could have ordered on pay-per-view, which you could have watched, you know, for, I don't know, what was it, $19.99, $24.99, $29.99. I don't even know what they were charging for because I didn't order it. But the commentators for this event were good old JR, Jim Ross, and Chael Sonnen. So you want to know what happened, right? Let's take you through the results. At heavyweight, Demorio Dennis defeated Brian Foret via TKO, 205 the first round. This was an untelevised prelim, and so are the next 2 fights. Light heavyweight, Brian McVeigh defeated Mike Cook via arm triangle choke at 139 of the second round. And then at welterweight, Jamal Parks defeated Ruben War 29-28 across the board. Then we move on to the main portion of the show with the tournament. And it went like this. Trey Houston defeated Jesse Taylor, yes, JT Money by armbar, 210 of the first round. Juan Carnero defeated Randall Walls via submission at 3:29 of the first round. Brock Larson defeated Cody McKenzie, who was looking awfully chunky, and I don't need to just tell you that. You can look at the pictures yourself. He got submitted by arm triangle choke at 1:43 of the second round, so we're a long ways from the days of the McKenzie team. He seems to have, ever since he left UFC, it's not been going well for him. Joe Ray defeated Luigi Fioravanti via TKO at 2:39 of the second round. Then we had to break it up a little bit. Couldn't have every single fight be a tournament. So Nico Kolostasis defeats Wayne Cole by submission rear naked choke, 1:32 into the first round. And at featherweight, Zach Church defeats Ryan Hayes via unanimous decision, 30-27 times 2, 29-28. Then we go back to the tournament. Juan Carnero defeats Trey Houston at 2:11 of the second round via TKO. And Brock Larson defeats Joe Ray via 29-28 decision across the board. And Chris Gutierrez defeats Tyler Shin via split decision in another fight to break up the tournament. And this was a split decision of 29-28 and 27-30 and 29-28. So, wow. Once again, two judges saw it one way, the other saw it completely different. And your main event, the finals of the tournament, Juan Carnero defeated Brock Larson 30-27 across the board to become the inaugural Battlegrounds MMA tournament champion and collect a $50,000 prize.